got a big-time matchup as the Baltimore Ravens are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings in a must-win game for both teams. So coming up on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports, we'll be giving you guys 5 reasons the Vikings will beat the Ravens if they do these 5 things. We'll talk about it here in a second, but I will say this. This will require a near-perfect game for the Vikings. The Ravens are a hungry football team. They started off 1-5. They've beaten the Bears and the Dolphins back-to-back weeks, and they're trying to win that division. They are trying to stack wins, get going, because they don't just have, playoff hopes. They have Super Bowl hopes. I'm sure in that locker room, they're still saying to themselves, we can go out there and hoist the Lombardi this season. And they're telling themselves, we got to go into Minnesota. We got to get a win, get to 4-5. So this will be a very, very tough test. This is not going to be easy for the Vikings. And the Ravens, they're just hungry. But also the Vikings should be too. So we'll give you guys those 5 reasons here in a second. But if you guys want the Vikes to beat the Ravens this Sunday at U.S. Bank Stadium, that place is going to be bumping. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry coming to town. So if you guys want the Vikes to beat the Ravens, go down there, hit that thumbs up icon for me. Would greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right, quickly here, I want to get you guys the injury report from Thursday. Probably by the time you guys are seeing this video, we also have Fridays as well. But Christian Darrisaw taking his typical Thursday DMP, but he'll be out there. Will Fry's practicing in full today. He should be good to go. We're also should be getting C.J. Ham back. Theo Jackson and Aaron Jones should be out there. Josh Metellus practicing full today. Will probably be without Jeff Okudah and Josh Oliver. Harrison Smith back after just taking a rest day on Wednesday. But the one key injury to follow here, I think, is going to be Jalen Redmond. Jalen Redmond's been fantastic this season, so hopefully number 61 is able to suit up. And he'll be a big reason if the Vikings are able to do this first key to victory here. Got to limit Derrick Henry. And I know it sounds chalk. You could say this probably every single week against every single running back in the NFL, but specifically with the Ravens and King Henry, number 22, it's got to happen because he's still having a great year. In honestly what they're considering a down year for Derrick Henry, and he's still got 629 yards on the ground, 128 carries, averaging around 5 yards per clip. He's got 6 rushing touchdowns on the year, which is tied for 6th in the NFL. Now, one key thing about Henry this season, he has had 2 fumbles lost. And they also have came late in the fourth quarter. It has been a big reason why the Ravens lost 2 of their games here early. So limiting Derrick Henry is going to be huge because that Lions offense, what you're able to do to Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery was key. You were selling out on early downs. You were getting home. And also, what I loved out of Brian Flores last week was they clearly saw on film, Jahmyr Gibbs is not good in blitz pickup. So they just had Eric Wilson, Blake Cashman, have these collisions in the hole over and over again. Maybe you do the same thing with Derrick Henry. Maybe you bully the bully a little bit, which is a tough task with King Henry, number 22. But we'll see if that ends up being the case. And number 2 for me, I think a lot of this is going to come down to the Vikings through there this weekend. The passing game is going to have to carry the offense. And I think, even though I think the Vikings defense will have a good game against Baltimore, you're for sure going to have to score 24-plus points to win this game. I think the Vikings do have a chance to hold them another 20, though, but you're going to probably need to have a massive game through the air because I'll be stunned if the Vikings can consistently run the ball this weekend. Even the Ravens, without Madubuike, they still got a lot of guys up front. Big guys as well, and the Vikings have struggled against bigger defensive lines so far this season in terms of establishing the run. I mean, we saw that with the Chargers. They got some big old D linemen there. Here will limit the Vikings' run game. So I don't think the Vikings, I wonder if this could also be a situation where you get super aggressive with J.J. McCarthy early on in this game because it's always typical, use the run to set up the pass. Maybe this weekend you flip it and you use J.J. McCarthy's right arm to, set up the run. And listen, all the pressure's on J.J. this weekend, as it will be for every single week for the rest of this season. I really believe this. There's no quarterback under more pressure in the National Football League this season than J.J. McCarthy because this was a team that won 14 games the previous year. They let Sam Darnold walk. Sam Darnold looks like a legit MVP candidate so far this season. So a lot of pressure is on this guy. A lot of spotlight is on this guy. Hopefully J.J. can get it done. Hopefully find number 18 a whole lot. And he goes for 150 on a Ravens secondary that is susceptible to some explosive plays so far this season. Number 3 for me, you got to sack Lamar Jackson. Not talking about pressures. The Vikings this year, they have one of the highest pressure rates in the NFL, but they're 11th in sacks. And you're taking on, in my opinion, the best dual threat quarterback I have ever seen touch NFL grass in the history of the league, and that being Lamar. And in just 5 games this season, he's averaging 3 touchdowns a game. His completion percentage is 72.9, throwing for over 1,000 yards so far this season. Also got 180 on the ground. He is absolutely fantastic. He is so dynamic, and with what the Vikings did last week, blitzing Jared Goff a whole lot, you might have to switch that up this weekend because Lamar Jackson is one of the better quarterbacks against the blitz in the NFL. Now, same was to be said about Jared Goff last week, so maybe the Vikings can find a way to generate some pressures by blitzing Lamar Jackson. But, 26 touchdowns and 6 picks against the blitz is absolutely ridiculous for Lamar. So what's going to be huge this week? You're going to have great lane integrity, which has been an issue for the Vikings all season. It's been an issue dating back to the first drive of the season, taking on Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams was able to scamper all around the pocket, make guys miss, get north and south, use his legs to pick up first downs. Obviously, you're not going to be able to stop Lamar from doing it at all, but can you just limit him? And also, Jonathan Gennard, use this as motivation. I'm calling you out, number 58. You have, I think, almost 40 pressures this season, but you got 2 sacks. Get him home. Do your best. I know it's a tough test this weekend, but if Jonathan Gennard, give me a 3-sack game, have Van Ginkel get a couple, and the Vikings will have a good chance of getting it done. But you guys let me know what you think. Can the Vikings limit Lamar Jackson? Action Jackson, number 8, one of the best players in the league. I somehow still think this guy is underrated, and he's coming to your building this weekend. So you guys let me know. Can the Vikings defense slow him down? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no in the comments section. All right, we'll get to 2 more reasons here in a second, but I got to tell you guys about today's sponsor. That is Factor Meals. And if you guys head on over to factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use code VikingsChat50 off, we'll hook you guys up with 50% off your first box, plus free breakfast for 1 year. Now, the fall season always feels like a reset between back to school, busy routines, and shorter days. Finding time to cook can be tough. That's why I love Factor. Their chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals make it easy to stay on track and enjoy something comforting and delicious, no matter how hectic the season gets. And also, why I love Factor, they got more variety and more meals. You guys can choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp, and no extra cost. And also, if you guys are a health nut like I am, they can support your wellness goals, so enjoy even more GLP-1 friendly meals and new Mediterranean diet options, practice protein and good-for-you fats. So eat smart at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off. Plug in promo code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code VikingsChat50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. This offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. All right, the Vikings beat the Ravens if they win the turnover battle. This is probably the best stat around Kevin O'Connell. And obviously winning the turnover battle is always huge, but when you have the game at home, you get a big-time turnover, the crowd gets into it, can deflate an opposing team coming into that building. But the Vikings are 33-4 with an 89.2 win percentage under KOC when they tie or win the turnover battle. And he is tied with Andy Reid for the highest winning percentage since 2020 with that stat of their teams either tying or winning the turnover battle. That's the best Kevin O'Connell stat out there. It's not any offensive, designs, offensive plays, offensive stats. I think it's a turnover stat because the Vikings if they catch a break or two, they're probably going to win that football game. So take care of the football, force a couple takeaways. Should be celebrating a victory Monday here in a couple of days. But also, you got to be able to flip the field on special teams. Ryan Wright, he had 1 bad punt last week against the Lions. Besides that, I thought he was pretty money. Back-to-back drives in the second half. The Vikings kind of stalled out at midfield. KOC elected to punt, and Ryan Wright pinned him right down at the 7-yard line. Perfect punts there. So that's going to be key. But also, how about this sicko? Miles Price. He has been absolutely fantastic for the Vikings. I think he's probably the most slept on or underrated kick returner in the league. Like, you don't really think of him when you think of best kick returner in the league. Miles Price, UDFA out of Indiana. But he's been just that. Like, he's given this team juice. He's given this team energy. And right now this season, he is actually the highest graded kick returner in the NFL via PFF, as he should. Like, last week against the Lions, I think he had 156 total return yards. So he was doing a great job. I mean, the opening drive, the Lions go right down the field, put the ball in the end zone. They score on that 4th and 4 to Sam Laporta. Miles Price, the next play, flips the field right back. He takes the Vikings all the way down to the 36-yard line. And 4 plays later, the Vikings are in the end zone. It's because of this guy. The price is right. he's going to have a big-time performance. The Vikings want to get the win. So here are the 5 things they need to do. Limit Derrick Henry. Got to get the pass game going. Sack Lamar Jackson. Don't pressure him. And as always, win the turnover battle. And special teams, do what you did last week. And hopefully the Vikings are getting a win again. But you guys let me know your thoughts. Predict the score for me. Ravens taking on the Vikings in US Bank Stadium. You guys let me know how you're feeling about this one. And we'll get on out of here. As always, let's go Vikes.